Praise from the opposing coach was cold comfort following the 38-0 thrashing.
I thought they were probably like we've been there, fighting hard, working hard in around the rucks, creating some stuff but can't quite finish it off with the amount of combinations that they've lost.
The Knights did cross the line early on. But the bunker had other ideas. A few minutes later, Corbin Sims was on report. Knights coach Nathan Brown says the debut of Brock Lamb was one positive in a losing side.
I thought he played really controlled and did really well, considering when you look at the circumstance that he played in, but I thought he was very controlled. He kicked the ball pretty well.
With several players now missing or carrying injuries, Newcastle's bye couldn't have come at a better time.
There's a fair few guys there that a week off for us is probably quite timely. I don't suspect we'll get anyone back over the next couple of weeks, but at least the bodies that are playing will get a good rest, which will be pleasing.
Souths were looking to return to the top of the ladder, and thanks to Tim Christie, they made a great start. The Butcher Boys hit back as Riley Brown combined with forward Brett Jarrett. The conversion by Dane Bamblett made it 6-4 to Central. But the Lions were soon back in front as Willie Hetta sold a dummy before setting up Jake Lawrence. When Lawrence went solo from 10 metres out, Souths were heading to the break with a 14-6 lead. The Lions increased the advantage in the second half. Souths made a break inside their own half before Steve Witters crossed under the posts. Central's defence appeared to be holding strong before Hetta carved past 5 Butcher Boys to score. When Liam Higgins scored, the 2 points were staying at Townsend Oval.
It was to be her maiden voyage to Newcastle, 680 passengers on board the Insignia, most from North America, more than half having booked day trips around the region.
The opportunity to showcase our beautiful region is lost. It's lost. It's terrible, shocking, disgraceful.
The ship was due in port next Sunday. The same day, hundreds are expected to take part in an anti-coal protest.
It's time to keep fossil fuels in the ground and move to the 100% renewable energy future we know is possible.
In previous years, the protest has looked like this. A flotilla of activists with the sole objective of stopping coal ships leaving the port.
This is to send a strong signal that if we're going to tackle climate change, we desperately need to stop coal exports.
The activists say it wasn't their intention to disrupt the cruise ship, saying the Insignia would have been docked at the time of the protest, and even suggesting the passengers would have enjoyed the colour and musical performances on offer during the rally.
When you line ships across a waterway, you stop everything. And you know you're going to stop everything.
With 700 people registered for the action so far, police are warning those involved to protest peacefully.
We hope that everyone acts in a safe manner. We don't want to see anyone put themselves at risk or, by doing so, put other people at risk.
Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
Negotiations are ongoing, but we are limited by the fact that we don't have jurisdiction over the Commonwealth. The state does not have powers over the Commonwealth, and that's why we felt it necessary to step in and do what we could for the community.
Locked doors and drawn shutters. A quiet West Wallsend today, except for this. Generators kept the IGA running to avoid spoiling $25,000 worth of stock, but even with the tills open, it still ran at a loss.
We're not going to make $4,000. Well, that's what the generator's costing us, $3,300 plus fuel.
The chemist worked in the dark while the animal hospital functioned below capacity, all while trying to save a dog fighting for life.
When we've got the animals problem on top of trying to provide the service to care for them, it does put I really worry about the staff.
Businesses received 4 weeks' notice about the power cut, which was for this: overhead lines being moved underground, only in front of the neighbourhood centre, so Lake Macquarie Council can refurbish the building. For most of the local businesses in the area today, the cost to open up was simply too much, instead choosing to limit their losses and keep their doors closed. Owners now want council to cover that cost, although at this stage that appears unlikely. In a statement this afternoon, the council said it's not required to provide compensation and that all requirements have been met. Little comfort for businesses already preparing for a second outage on May 23.
We've been phoning council, phoning state members, nothing. Bad luck.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
He's been with the Jets since he was 16, so Ben Kantarovski is no stranger to school visits. A new deal means the 24-year-old will be spreading the word about football locally for at least one more season.
I'm very excited to be able to stay around and be given another opportunity to keep improving as a footballer and keep representing Newcastle.
It's important that Ben realises that I want him to step up this year. He's got a vast amount of experience for someone of his age, but I'm demanding a lot more from him.
Scott Miller is relatively new to the region, but he's quickly made an impact. These pupils won a competition to bring the Jets to St James Primary at Katara South, and the coach was a star attraction. Like the students, Miller has been busy studying, in particular the tactics of new champions Adelaide.
You can only ever benchmark the current champions, and Adelaide are there. We're not too far off it with a number of areas, but that final third we need drastic improvement.
Today's visit was also the backdrop for the renewal of a community partnership. At this point, the club is still owned by the FFA, but Miller says a new owner is close. The coach isn't sure what that means for his budget, but he's still set to head to Europe later this month to continue his recruitment drive. Before then, he'll ramp up negotiations with keeper Mark Birighitti and begin approaching players from rival A-League clubs.
These negotiations will be pretty intense this week with these players, and it all depends on the decision from the opposition managers.
It's a massive honour. I'm very humbled to be considered for that role. We've had some extremely influential captains in the past, and hopefully we can come away with a win and do it our way. That's the message that the NRL have been pushing, and that we have, and the Kangaroos, and Mal Meninga himself has been pushing it, and we are so humbled to be held in that high esteem. And like I said, hopefully Friday night now we just have to show what we're made of.
Amanda Carter and Ricardo da Silva, once former lovers, today he faced court accused of her murder. In his opening remarks, Crown Prosecutor Lee Carr painted da Silva as a man who was struggling to accept the 2009 breakdown of their relationship. The court heard his behaviour allegedly became more and more erratic in the months leading up to Ms Carter's death on May 16, 2010. The 46-year-old's body was found by her daughter, bludgeoned to death, her injuries so severe her face was unrecognisable. The trial was told the injuries, the blows, were delivered to the deceased while she was lying in the bed. The prosecution claims da Silva broke into the math teacher's Wungara house and whilst in the home murdered the deceased, placed the oil on the stove, turned the stove on in the hope of having the house burned down. The court heard Ms Carter had been growing increasingly concerned for her safety, saying in an email, Richard seems to have gone past the not accepting stage and is entering the angry stage. In a brief response, the defence claimed the prosecution's case will be fairly circumstantial and urged jurors to keep an open mind during the trial, which is expected to run for several weeks. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News. Another federal budget and you'd be forgiven for feeling a touch of deja vu. And in 2016, expect much of the same.
It would be marvellous to see commitment to some of the key projects that we have.
But many say that's unlikely. Funding for the M1 and the Glendale interchange not expected.
It would be marvellous to see as the announcements roll out, but I'm not entirely certain what that would mean close to an election. I guess it's a different type of budget this time around.
Tax cuts to small and medium businesses from 28.5% to 27.5% could prove a small sweetener though. Because the cost of establishing a business here in Newcastle is significantly cheaper than in Sydney, the tax cuts could lead to an increase in the number of startups in the inner city.
There's never been in the past and never will be in the future a region where major corporations are headquartered, but it will be a region that can facilitate the growth and development of small business startups.
Any reforms to negative gearing, while not expected, wouldn't be large enough to rattle the property market.
The abolition of negative gearing may see some slight effect on investors coming into the market who will no longer have the tax breaks. However, with the limited supply around, I think we'll still see investment in property still as a viable option.
For the Hunter's wine industry, there won't be much to drink to. Backpackers will still be taxed at 32.5% from their first dollar earned.
By adding an additional tax burden to backpackers, what that's going to do is it's going to make those industries that are traditionally reliant upon backpacker employers, say the vineyards, it's going to actually make it a little bit more challenging to recruit backpackers.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
It's building a house in fast forward. Put together off-site, these prefab homes are being touted as the next generation of the construction industry.
They're built in the factory. They take about 12 weeks to do in the factory, and then once we get to site, it's about 10 days, 2 weeks.
These two homes are the first Tectum houses being constructed in Newcastle. In a matter of days, there'll be two-bedroom homes on this large Mayfield block, built in the factory, lifted into place here today.
When they ship from the factory, the plumbing is finished, the electrical is finished, all the bathrooms are tiled and grouted and so on and so forth. So then when we get to site, there's a little bit of gyprock on the external walls and the ceiling, coat of paint, job's done.
Originally designed by a Swiss architect, the home itself costs upwards of $135,000, but it's the time saved the manufacturers say is the big advantage.
We can build the entire house in the factory whilst the site works are being done on site. So when the groundworks are ready, we've built the house, we come on site, and then the owner is ready to move in within a couple of weeks of that happening.
Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
You're looking at the future of the Hunters' newest high school. These bright primary pupils will be among the first to enrol at St Bede's Catholic College at Chisholm.
It will be a 7 to 12 school and probably around 900 to 1,000 students eventually.
Unveiled today the school's name and foundation stone, a tribute to its patron saint, a monk in the 8th century.
He became a great scholar and his books sort of then taught most of Northern Europe for a couple of centuries.
A first look of the site as well, an initial $10 million investment by Catholic schools that will grow to around $50 million upon completion.
It will be a co-educational, comprehensive school. It will be one that has a focus on all dimensions of learning.
What are you looking forward to?
I just think it's going to be a wonderful school and I'll get back with my friends that left.
What subjects are you looking forward to learning?
Science.
Science?
Yeah, probably science too.
And at a time when the church is front and centre in inquiries and court cases, the region's eminent Catholic says there are now very strict protections in place and that a Catholic education is still relevant.
I know it'll take time to regain the faith of a lot of people, but no, I think they can have faith in the system.
Mike Lorrigan, NBN News.
Emma Young got the chance to face the Kiwis at the 2013 World Cup, but a match-up in her own backyard means a whole lot more.
I'm privileged and honoured to be playing in this double-header, especially at my home grounds.
Fellow Hunter product Caitlin Moran has tried her hand at touch footy and rugby, but her passion has always been rugby league. The pint-sized 19-year-old will make her Gillaroos debut on Friday night.
Definitely not the biggest in size, that's for sure, but I'm happy to give it a go, really. To know that I've got support either side of me and the girls, if they're digging in hard for me, I'll do it for them.
Coach Steve Folkes still has a few days of preparation to finalise his tactics. Our girls will start on the bench against the powerful New Zealand outfit.
I think I'll be like an impact forward, when the girls get tired, coming on and making that impact, doing those extra little things to help out because I'm coming on fresh.
If anyone goes down or anything happens out in the back line, I'm ready to go for wings and a fullback wherever he needs me.
.800 athletes, 42 teams from 15 nations, all with an unwavering confidence they're going to win it. How are the chances?
The chances are pretty high. We're going to be in the top three for sure.
I think we've got a bloody good chance, actually.
Keep dreaming. That's my answer to that.
Following years of planning, today the countdown ended.
I hereby declare the 8th Grandmaster Hockey World Cup in Newcastle opened.
I'm very excited that the dream has come true. It's up there in my hockey career as one of the finest things that we've done, and it is a great event for Newcastle.
Sides are competing across 4 age groups between 60 and 75 years. The latter includes one of Australia's all-time greats, 1964 Olympic captain John McBride, who led Australia to its first ever hockey medal.
The teams are all very much looking forward to it, and we as a team have certainly put in an effort to get here this far.
Competition kicked off this afternoon and runs until next Thursday. They'll be playing with passion to win, but also a shared understanding.
There is a very famous saying from Pierre de Coubertin, the man that developed the Olympic concept. And Pierre de Coubertin was always saying the most important thing is to participate. So this is the reason why we're here for.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
Defence dollars rolled into the region overnight, $102 million for the redevelopment of the Williamtown RAF base, as well as $161 million to prepare it for the new Joint Strike Fighter. There's also more help for fishing families affected by the contamination scandal, with a new round of hardship payments to start from July 1, capped at $25,000 if the state government keeps waterways closed. But the budget glass is half empty for Hunter Vignerons. Changes will see smaller winemakers' rebates slashed from $500,000. The government also didn't reverse its position on the so-called backpackers tax, which will see foreign grape pickers taxed 32.5% from the first dollar they earn come July 1. Labor also claims the government's income tax relief for those earning more than $80,000 a year will provide little help in the Hunter.
The average income in the region is more like $54,000.
University students can breathe easier with the deregulation of fees dumped, but the door is still open for further cuts in the sector. In terms of infrastructure, there was $18 million for the duplication of the Toole Street Bridge and $10 million for the Scone Bypass. Outgoing Paterson MP Bob Baldwin concedes more projects could have been funded.
When Labor spent all the surpluses, when Labor created the pathway to debt and deficit, it's very hard to deliver what you would like to deliver.
There were some big ticket items overlooked, including the Glendale interchange and extension of the M1 to Raymond Terrace, and Labor's remaining tight-lipped about its own plans.
Well, the budget response will be largely about the economic future of the country. There'll be a lot of talk about fairness.
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
Flames pouring out of a roof on Gordon Avenue. Firefighters raced to the scene just after 8:30 this morning after neighbours noticed smoke coming from the 3 adjoining garages.
I ran around the corner as people were calling the fire brigade and see the house with the roof collapsing inwards.
The roof caved in, further fueling the fire. Witnesses grabbed hoses and did what they could to protect a 2-storey building next door, which had to be evacuated.
We had 5 appliances and probably 20 firefighters here this morning to contain it.
The garages belonging to public housing units nearby were quickly destroyed, and within 25 minutes of the blaze breaking out, the clean-up had begun.
I don't know how it started. It was well on fire by the time anyone realised things were happening.
At the moment it looks like there's just domestic material inside and some machinery, lawnmowers and that sort of equipment.
The blaze isn't believed to be suspicious. Mike Lorrigan, NBN News.
For those touched by cancer, the journey is often daunting. Today, patients faced a different challenge, putting those worries aside to enjoy the finer things in life.
I've had breast cancer twice, 16 years apart. Oh, laughter's the best medicine.
The Bald and Beautiful Day provides some much-needed time out for people living with the disease.
I've had chemo, I've had radiation. Now I don't have any treatment. I've still got it. I still carry on. I just look after myself, and this is helping me to relax and take care of myself now.
And those supporting them.
Mum was diagnosed with breast cancer this year. She's got to go through some more treatments and everything, so it's all kind of new to us, but it's our first time coming here and it's been a pretty good day so far.
It's all made possible by founder Judith Taylor and her team of volunteers.
I didn't think we'd get beyond the first year. It was just amazing.
It's really beautiful that we get to do this while we're still learning and that they trust us.
This sort of day, the things these all volunteers do to make every one of us feel as good as we do on the day. The pampering and the thoughtfulness is really there.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
It's been a real honour to be able to work on one project for 20 years and to have that sort of like the defining part of your career. It's been wonderful. We have a direct conduit back to the government to say this is what we found, and then they're able to incorporate that into their policy responses.
The hundreds of kids watching country train today was all the proof Tarek Sims needed to show this fixture still has relevance.
We had one person pull out through injury, in our whole camp. So, it means a lot to us country boys, and like we said, we're always out here and giving back to the community, and we know how much, it means to the people in the country. So players that played in State of Origin last year here, you got Boyd Cordner, Jimmy Maloney's played in the big stage before, so I absolutely think it's a great idea.
The countryside's first session in Tamworth, a pleasing run.
Trained really sharp out there then. The boys played really well. Jimmy Maloney steered the ship nice, and Jack Bird was on the back of that. And it's no secret we've got a pretty big pack, so the big boys are lumbering up the field nice for us.
Back in Newcastle, his Knights teammates are enjoying a more relaxed week after last Saturday's tough outing against the Roosters, the first game for Brock Lamb.
Nothing compares to actually playing in the NRL, and the speed and the physicality was really up there, but I'm just going to keep training hard and keep working on my defence, and hopefully I'll be better for it.
That defence was impressive. Rep forward Boyd Cordner targeted him all night, but Lamb kept him contained, finishing with 24 tackles.
I sort of wanted to test myself to see where I was at, and I think with Boyd, one of the best back rowers in the competition, I did test myself, and I like to think I did a bit of a job on him, so I can keep doing that moving forward with other opposition players.
It's likely he'll have plenty more chances to do that. Jared Mullen isn't expected to return for at least 8 weeks.
It's terrible what happened to Jared, and he's really helped me a lot in the pre-season, so he's still helping me, and hopefully I can do a job for the team.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
I think there's more excitement than nerves. I think we've been training for such a long time that, we just want to get out there and just play the game now.
Samantha Sullivan has enjoyed a rapid rise up the Australian CrossFit ranks. In 2013, she was in the mid-400s. Last year, she was 65th. This year, she jumped to 21st to qualify for the national finals as an individual for the first time. But she knows there's a long way to go before she cracks the top 10.
I'm not the same as those top 10 girls. Those top 10 girls are incredible professional athletes, and I'm really proud to be competing down there with them next weekend.
Sean Brickwood finished 18th in the finals in Wollongong last year. He's hoping to climb into the top 15 this time around, but a back injury has interrupted his preparations.
I had to sort of take a break from training for the last couple of weeks. Haven't done much at all, a little bit of swimming here and there, and just recovery every day, so physio, chiro.
No such problems for Sam. She's got her busy schedule all mapped out.
I'll be practicing and just analysing and recovering and making sure they don't have any niggles, any physical injuries that might pop up and prevent me from doing well.
One of more than 50 grim finds. For the past week, dead corellas have littered parks at Warners Bay, leaving wildlife carers asking why.
We got 5 different calls about 5 birds and we started to get a little bit worried. And then on Sunday, the numbers increased and we had about 15 or 16.
The birds have all been discovered near Warners Bay Park and the Esplanade, with some even found slowly dying in children's playgrounds.
The ones that weren't dead were very, very lethargic. They were dying quite painfully. They were taking seizures, so it was very hard on our rehabilitators.
A number of the birds have been sent for testing. Preliminary results show they didn't die of natural causes.
They have said the birds that we brought down, they were very fit and healthy birds. There was no indication that there was any trauma. They didn't have disease, and the only other explanation at the moment looks like they have been poisoned.
The birds will now be taken to the EPA for further testing, and if someone is found to be poisoning them, they could be facing fines of up to $10,000 a bird. Hunter Wildlife Rescue is now relying on the public to help them find those responsible.
Please let us know, because that will help us isolate the source and maybe we could bring this person to justice.
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
Last year's federal budget, nothing. This year's federal budget, nothing. 3 years of forward estimates, nothing.
The port is known for welcoming some of the biggest ships in the world. Now it's home to some of the smallest.
In your left hand, bring the control down, brings the sails on, ease the control out, eases the sails out.
A fleet of radio-controlled yachts is being assembled for a demonstration regatta this Saturday at the Newcastle Cruising Yacht Club at Wickham. Enthusiast Howard Keegan is behind the push to establish a local fleet.
We aim to have a racing fleet that would race probably every second weekend on a Saturday. There's already a fleet racing at Lake Macquarie on the alternate Sunday, so by doing that we give the people the option of sailing every weekend or alternate weekends of each club.
Ranging in price from a few $100s to a few thousand, the little boats, which measure about 1 metre long, cost only a fraction of the price of their full-sized stablemates. Saturday's Come and Try Day will feature boats from other radio sailing clubs and will run from 11 o'clock till 2:30.
There would be probably 30 boats down on the water. If people are really interested, they can come down and take the controls and get some instruction and learn how to sail them.
He's the superstar signing the defending champions are banking on this season. Canadian pro Brandon Wong's been in the country less than a week, scoring 2 goals when he was barely off the plane.
2 lucky ones in the first period, which happened right away. Unfortunately, we lost game in shootout.
The side's also been bolstered by the arrival in recent weeks of Canadian Connor McLaughlin and the return of Scott Swiston. All 3 imports are forwards and could form the most dangerous attacking combination in the league.
Our job here is to just put pucks in the net, so that's definitely what we're going out to do every time we're out on the ice.
This is Swiston's second stint with the North Stars. He's hoping to repeat last year's championship-winning efforts. And the Sydney Ice Dogs and Canberra Brave are in his sights this weekend.
We practiced all week together and we kind of built that chemistry up a little bit more. And I think that's really going to help us in the weekend.
Wong is here on a 4-week contract, Swiston and McLaughlin the entire season. And despite the sport pulling no punches in North America, they won't be bringing back the biff here.
No, I don't think I will. No, hopefully just score some goals and we can win some games. And then, like I said, just get some travelling in and see some Australia.
Mike Lorigan, NBN News.
A very special moment. I know all my family's definitely going up to Newcastle, and then I think they're all just hopping in the car and coming out here to Tamworth and supporting me. She's a special person. I wouldn't be too lippy with her because she's sorted us out a couple of times.
They're strong up the middle and fast on the edges, so we just need to make sure that we shut them down early so they don't have any opportunity to shift the ball or go through us.
Beautiful girls, beautiful costumes, and something different for Australian audiences that I don't think has sort of been done on this scale before in Australia.
33-year-old Benjamin Batterham is accused of killing Ricky Slater-Dixon on a Hamilton street in the early hours of Easter Saturday. Today at a bail hearing in Newcastle local court, State Prosecutor John Sfinas said Batterham chased Mr Slater-Dixon 365 metres around the block before holding him down with his forearm around his neck. He told the court eyewitness accounts of the accused showed him to be very aggressive, adding that it was his actions that led to the deceased's death. A post-mortem is still being carried out, but prosecutors say Mr Slater-Dixon died from a hypoxic brain injury, a lack of oxygen to the brain, which resulted in a heart attack. Defence barrister Winston Terracini argued the accused was in his home with a friend when he saw Mr Slater-Dixon with one of his wife's handbags. He described it as a home invasion. He also told the court Mr Slater-Dixon was in possession of knives. Mr Terracini went on to describe the Crown's case as extraordinarily weak, saying it's inconceivable that anybody is going to suggest this is a strong case of murder. Mr Slater-Dixon's family was at the hearing. They say they're still mourning his loss.
We want justice for what he done to our baby, you know. He done wrong and he shouldn't get out and he shouldn't get bail.
Mr Batterham appeared via audio-visual link from Cessnock Maximum Security Centre. He's due to appear again next Tuesday when a decision will be made on his bail application. Renee Feder, NBN News.
For residents surrounding the Williamtown RAF base, Lake Cochrane has been the source of much angst. But now the Commonwealth plans to clean up the lake by installing a water treatment plant to stem the flow of remaining firefighting chemicals into the surrounding area.
This is very specialised equipment. It's cost some $9 million. It's being brought in from overseas.
The plant won't eliminate the existence of PFOS or PFOA. Instead, Defence says it'll ensure levels are below the adopted screening criteria. For affected residents, it's welcome news.
It did come as a surprise, but it was a very welcome surprise that at long last they are doing something to stop the source.
They've still got questions, in particular what is being done to remediate properties in the red zone.
We have a community that is contaminated and an aquifer that is contaminated. So the question still remains, what is Defence going to do to remediate off-base?
Mr Baldwin says tenders are being sought to clean up contaminated soil. So far, Defence has collected over 900 samples. Of those, 80% have come back negative. Meanwhile, tenders for the long-term remediation of Lake Cochrane are expected to be called in July. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
No doubt trying to find them on the ground was going to be very hard, and the fact that the aircraft was able to locate them because of the fire made it much quicker response to get them to safety.
Meet Mick Fitzgerald. He's a familiar face around these parts, a skilled farrier, one of a dying trade.
It is a lot easier to buy horseshoes than making them, but it's the same as anyone's hobby, whether they're riding horses or something. Like it's the time you want to put in to whatever your hobby is to make it great.
The Scone local started shoeing horses at just 14. Now Mick competes around the world.
You're dealing with different cases of horses, so every horse is shod different, same as people wear different shoes.
It's stories like Mick's organisers of this year's Scone Horse Festival wanted to showcase when they decided to make their own calendar.
Some of them have been a bit shy, but luckily they got on board and they've done a great job and they look fantastic.
It features 14 of the Upper Hunter's most eligible studs, including 8-time national champion cowboy Heath Nichols.
It really is a lot of dedication and a lot of practice. We spend a lot of hours at home working on our horses and in training.
And while the guys may be easy on the eye, they've got a good reason for signing up. The calendar raises money for charity, including the scholarship in honour of Olivia Inglis, who died tragically while competing at the Scone Horse Trials. Copies of the calendar can be purchased from event locations throughout the festival. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
Top of the table and an average of almost 40 points a game this season, Souths are the competition's most feared attack.
It comes off the back of our defence. I mean, our defence has been pretty good the first 3 rounds.
They'll be coming up against fellow heavyweights Wests on Sunday, the competition's best defensive side. The showdown is shaping up to be the biggest blockbuster of the season so far, and unfortunately their captain will again be on the sidelines.
Physio said 2 to 3 weeks, so get past this weekend and try and aim for an early comeback against Cessnock next week.
Wests have also managed to remain undefeated and their experience has been recognised, with 9 players named in the Newcastle Hunter rep team.
Well, a lot of them are incumbents. They've been there for the last few years, and although Newcastle haven't won a country championships in a while, the players there are high quality.
Coach Steve Storey admits the side has been lacklustre in attack and says this weekend's matchup will be a good indicator to see where it's at.
We haven't played well for the last 3 weeks, and if we come out and play like we have for the last 3 weeks, we'll get a lesson.
Mike Lorrigan, NBN News. The Wildfires have seen plenty of success at the Country Championships, but last year's loss to Illawarra in trying conditions saw them in unfamiliar territory.
Never played in conditions like that. It was more like Scottish, Northern Hemisphere sort of weather, 4 inches of mud.
11 players of the starting 15 have played for the Wildfires before. With Hamilton undefeated this year, it was only fair they were handed the lion's share of selections.
It helps a lot with those combinations, familiarity as well.
The Wanderers with 7 were also rewarded. Belgian international Elaine Mirialakis, a new choice coming off the bench, while Sorelli Bainavalu has been given the call-up again. He'll be among a number of weapons coach Tony Munro will be looking to unleash this weekend.
Big Sefa from Hamilton, the big Fijian, with international experience. I think he'll do a lot of damage. In the backs, I expect Billy Coffey and Sorelli to show their blistering pace, and Jay Strong, when he gets the ball in the hands, very hard to stop at the best of times.
First game off the bus will be Central North, and the coach says defence is the key.
They'll work hard in that first half of the game. We've just got to hold them out and stick with them, and I think we'll get over the top of them in the second half.
Mike Lorrigan, NBN News.
From the wreckage of the heavy rail line, another activist group has risen. A coalition of smaller former groups united under the banner of Keep Rail on the Corridor.
Public land for public use is really what we're about.
The group is against the slated route and instead wants it to run on the former heavy rail line. It's also concerned that corridor will become overdeveloped if it doesn't house the project. Keep Rail on the Corridor is hosting a forum on Monday night at Newcastle Leagues Club with transport experts and city planners on the speaking bill.
Rail down Hunter Street and into Scott Street is just a ludicrous idea, and when the corridor is 6 metres away from it. There just seems no sense and no reason for doing this.
With the light rail route now announced, the chances of it being changed are considerably less likely. But the group does want its ideas to be taken seriously by the state government. It's not opposing light rail, instead it believes the rail corridor is the best option. According to a statement from Scott McDonald this afternoon, it seems the route isn't up for discussion, but he did encourage everyone to make submissions and participate in the consultation process, adding concerns over parking and traffic flows can be highlighted.
They're not listening to the people on this. They're not listening to their own people.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
The mining boom has certainly made its mark on the Upper Hunter, but as coal investment slows, a proposal for a Chinese-backed abattoir and feedlot near Denman is giving new hope to the region.
That's good news for farmers, graziers throughout the Upper Hunter, right through to Merriwa.
FJT Australia's plans include an abattoir at Hollydean, which would initially process 14,500 sheep and cattle a week for export. The associated feedlot has a stock capacity of 25,000, with an annual throughput of 100,000.
We are really close in proximity to Southeast Asia. We have a comparative advantage, therefore, in the supply of value-added agricultural product.
Once fully operational, the abattoir could process as many as 500,000 head of cattle and 1 million sheep every year. The proposal has been submitted to the State Department of Planning for approval. So far, it's been welcomed by those in the agricultural industry.
We've had a slowdown in the dairy industry. It's been very tight for dairies. Certainly some country around this area is underproducing.
And with the creation of 500 jobs, the flow-on effect would be far-reaching.
Housing construction, other construction inputs, retail, of course, in the urban centres of Muswellbrook and Denman.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
The gaming community is ridiculously helpful with everything. You know, they're always big on charities, and you'll see a lot of these things happen overseas. But for us to get the result that we got out of what we've done is just, we're all blown away, literally all blown away. So we couldn't be happier.
The Upper Hunter uniting to celebrate all things equine. Horses great and small took part in the parade to showcase the region's chief industry.
It does so much for the area, and it establishes not just that area, it flows on to other effects. It brings people, those people become a part of our community as well.
Scone's main streets were blocked off, with thousands lining the curbs to catch a glimpse. Community groups and schools also joined in on more than 70 floats. This year's parade took on a distinct Brazilian feel, with bright colours and costumes the theme to celebrate the 2016 Rio Games.
I've been here a few times, but I'd say this has really put the icing on the cake.
Today's parade forms part of an 11-day festival, which also includes the running of the Scone Cup. Now in its 36th year, the event offers something for all ages.
There's always lots and lots on. From here we can go to the Fade or the Food and Wine Festival, and it's great fun for all the family.
People come from everywhere. It's a really community event, but it also expands out to people and tourists that come to join us on the day for the parade.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
It's all about introducing the sport to all ages, from children up to aged adults. There's nothing wrong with any age playing with these boats at all.
Just when we were there the other day, we saw people doing the exact same thing as Jade, and you know, it's just, I think it's unfair. We don't want to see any more injuries like that.
Running out to Hunter Stadium, led by captain Ruan Sims, the Gillaroos were hoping for back-to-back Trans-Tasman wins, and the fireworks started early. A big blow in the opening minutes, though, centre Corbin McGregor down with a collarbone injury. A quick 2 points on the board for the home side, but with numbers out left, it was the visitors who found the line first. The Aussies weren't to be outdone. A beautiful cutout from Maddie Studden found Samantha Bremner for Australia's first four-pointer. The Ferns kept their lead though when Maitua Federica muscled her way over in the 33rd minute. Early in the second half, a spill from local Emma Young put the Ferns on the front foot again, and they made the most of it with a magic inside ball from Georgia Hale. 2 tries to Karina Brown, including this effort in the 50th minute. Not enough to stop the rampaging Kiwis, finishing up 26-16 winners.